Greetings, everybody. Keith here.
Greetings.
Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. We got Russell and John with us. How you doing this morning, guys?
We're doing good, Wiz. Doing good.
Doing well here as well.
Good. Always good to hear. Always good to hear. As you see, it says UCC 1-201 general definitions. And we're also going to talk about postal finance. And that's, we're going to go over various different definitions of finance and what relates to it. And before we get started, I wanted to mention, last night we spoke about Brandon Williams and the concept of establishing a nationality in all of the states. And I relegated that to the concept that I have 18 profiles here on YouTube, and it sets us up as like an author's guild. It gives us an extra protection. And so I wanted to show off a little collection of books that I got that turned me on to the thing about Authors Guild. Law of Corporations, 5th edition, Legal Drafting, 1st or 2nd edition, and Business Associations, 2nd edition. And you'll notice it's Business Associations. It's by Joseph Shade through Thomson West. Legal Drafting is through Thomas R. Haggard through Thomas West Publishing. And then the Law of Corporations, Robert W. Hamilton. And this is an authors guild where authors get together and they help protect each other's work by doing their research and writing together. And so these guys, the one guy is more adept at the corporate law, the other guy is more adept at legal drafting, and the other guy is more adept at business associations. So they got together and they wrote a series of books, and it's a way to protect your literary works is by working together. Just wanted to make an issue of that this morning. And then we're going to get into it right away with UCC, like I said, 1-201, some definitions here. And as we see, 1-201 of the UCC, Uniform Commercial Code, general definitions. And it says, unless the context otherwise requires, words or phrases defined in this section or in the additional definitions contained in other articles of the Uniform Commercial Code that apply to particular articles or parts thereof have the meaning stated. Okay, so when you're using contracts in the commercial forum, these are the definitions that they use. Subject to definitions contained in other articles of the Uniform Commercial Code that apply to particular articles or parts thereof. Action, in the sense of a judicial proceeding, includes recoupment, counterclaim, set-off, suit in equity, and any other proceeding in which rights are determined. Let me show you this one here, the counterclaim. In case you didn't know, a defendant, through a summons and a waiver of personal jurisdiction, is actually supposed to be done as a counterclaim. Supposed to be claim versus claim. So when you go to these courts and you don't actually make a counterclaim, You just try to fend off the charges. They already, again, know that you don't know what's going on, so they just keep on mowing you over. Aggrieved party means a party entitled to pursue a remedy. Aggrieved party means a party entitled to pursue a remedy. I want to ask if they're using the law, law or legal system, whether it be administrative, civilly, or criminally, is that or is that not abuse of use of the law? As it says in that definition under 18 U.C. 1589, the use or threatened use is the abuse or threatened abuse. So anytime somebody comes after you using that law, you are the aggrieved party. They cannot bring corporate actions against a non-corporate entity. Agreement, as distinguished from contract, means the bargain of the parties in fact, as found in their language or inferred from other circumstances, including course of performance. This is where they take your dealings with them, and if you don't qualify that signature or qualify any other terms in there for your language, then it's the course of performance. If it looks like the performance of the functions of public office, that's what it will be deemed. If it looks like the performance of a corporate entity, that's what it will be deemed. Okay, so this is why you have to make sure that you know the terms and conditions of that agreement and put your own in there and make sure you qualify that signature for the capacity. Bank means a person engaged in the business of banking and includes a savings bank, savings and loan association, credit union, and trust company. Bearer means a person in possession of a negotiable instrument, document of title, or certificated security that is payable to bearer or endorsed in blank. Bill of lading means a document evidencing the receipt of goods for shipment issued by a person engaged in the business of transporting or forwarding goods. That little citation they give you alongside the road, that's technically a bill of lading. That's against the letter of mark and reprisals. They're not supposed to be doing that. And they know damn well, good and well, that they're not supposed to be. Bill of lading means a document evidencing the receipt of goods for shipment issued by a person engaged in the business of transporting or forwarding goods. When you give them that driver's license, guess what? You just said you're in the business of transporting or forwarding goods. And when that officer obtained that driver's license, he made a bill of lading, a document evidencing the receipt of such an item. Branch includes a separately incorporated foreign branch of a bank. Burden of establishing a fact means the burden of persuading the trier of fact that the existence of the fact is more probable than its non-existence. So if the officer pulls you over alongside the road and says that you don't have a plate on your car, what's the evidence against you. The fact that you're supposed to have a driver's license? Show me the law. It doesn't exist. That you refuse to sign a document? Show me the law. It doesn't exist. That you didn't give the nice little policy officer a legal name? Show me the law. It doesn't exist. Now, here's an interesting one as it goes to the purchase order that we spoke of the other day. If you remember, a purchase order, they say, is issued by the buyer. So, buyer, in the ordinary course of business, means a person that buys goods in good faith, without knowledge that the sale violates the rights of another person in the goods. Without knowledge that the sale violates the rights of another person in the goods. And in the ordinary course from a person other than a pawnbroker, in the business of selling goods of that kind. Okay, so if you go to a purchase or a car lot and get a purchase order, are you selling that automobile as a seller? See, that's the premise. If you go to a car lot, we're going to go over these two again. Bill of lading and buyer in ordinary course of business. And when you go to the car lot, they issue a purchase order. They're the buyer, you're the seller. Selling goods of that kind. Are you going to sell that automobile when you're done using it? Yes. So now you become a seller. In the future, remember the future debt? In the future, you're going to create another debt. Even though you may buy that car and pay it off in full, you're going to turn around and sell it and create another debt. That's what it's all about. You're considered in the business of transferring property because you don't know how to use it appropriately and keep it within your own assets, list of assets. So when you fill out that paperwork, like that title that you get from the state, if you look on there, there's supposed to be a transfer. Transfers are done by transfer agents. You're not a transfer agent. You're not supposed to have that title. That title isn't supposed to be split. That title isn't supposed to exist. Titles are for public office, public use. A person buys goods in the ordinary course if the sale to the person comports with the usual or customary practices in the kind of business in which the seller is engaged, or with the seller's own usual or customary practices. A person that sells oil, gas, or other materials at the wellhead or mine head is a person in the business of selling goods of that kind. A buyer in ordinary course of business may buy for cash by exchange of other property or on secured or unsecured credit, and may acquire goods or documents of title under a pre-existing contract for sale. There is a pre-existing contract for sale, and like I said, there's already a pre-existing purchase. They already paid for it. It's already paid for. Only a buyer that takes possession of the goods or has a right to recover the goods from the seller under Article 2 may be a buyer in the ordinary course of business. Only a buyer that takes possession of the goods or has a right to recover the goods from the seller. Why would you have a right to recover goods from the seller? Didn't you already sell them? Didn't he already buy them? And now he's going to sell them, and you have a right to recover from him? How so? Remember, if everything's backwards and they're considering you the one to be the buyer, then aren't you the buyer that took possession of the goods and you have a right to recover the goods from the seller? If you bought it, what is the right to recover? Recover. Was it uncovered? Was something uncovered? Was something exposed? You got to think about the words and terms being used. Buyer in the ordinary course of business does not include a person that acquires goods in a transfer in bulk or as security for or in a total or partial satisfaction of a money debt. So if you only bought one car, you are not a buyer in the ordinary course of business. You did not buy it in bulk. You do not buy automobiles in bulk like a automobile dealership. You're not a convenience store that buys lighters in bulk. You're not a merchant that buys anything in bulk. Then this does not apply. You are not a buyer in the ordinary course of business. We're going to skip a few here, but I want to read 11. Consumer means an individual who enters into a transaction primarily for personal, family, or household purposes. These are all commercial terms. Personal is a commercial term. Family is a commercial term. Household is a commercial term. An individual who enters into a transaction primarily for privacy, to maintain privacy, would be the benefactor. Contract, as distinguished from agreement, means the total legal obligation that results from the parties' agreement as determined by the Uniform Commercial Code, as supplemented by any other applicable laws. As supplemented. The UCC is not a standalone set of laws. It has to be supplemented. You have to be able to clarify whether you're the buyer or the seller. You have to be able to clarify if you're a trustee, principal, agent, benefactor, whatever. Those are supplemental terms from other codes. Creditor includes a general creditor, a secured creditor, a lien creditor, and any representative of creditors, including an assignee for the benefit of creditors, a trustee in bankruptcy, a receiver in equity, and an executor or administrator of an insolvent debtor's or assigner's estate. Now, if you guys remember the U definition under 20 CFR 402.103, U means an individual who owes a debt to the United States. Now, if you owe a debt to the United States and the United States is insolvent, then they're saying that you yourself in that debt are operating in insolvency. If you owe a debt to the United States and the United States is the debtor bankrupt, then how is it anybody can take any property from you on behalf of the United States? It can't. Again, another impossibility. When you understand what's going on, you can rebut this stuff. Defendant includes a person in the position of defendant in a counterclaim, cross-claim, or third-party claim. So as a defendant, if you haven't gone in and made a claim, then you've already violated the process yourself, if you're even supposed to be in those courts. Again, remember, they're administrative courts for corporate entities. So your counterclaim against an action like that in rem against the thing is the estate. They're administrating the estate, the thing. And your counterclaim is a federal claim in personam through common law as a matter of equity. Delivery with respect to an instrument, document of title, or chattel paper means voluntary transfer of possession. Document of title includes bill of lading, dock warrant, dock receipt, warehouse receipt, or order for delivery of goods. Did mom deliver a baby? Do you understand what delivery is? The doctor delivered a baby. It was voluntary transfer of possession. That's all it takes. That's what delivery is. It doesn't even have to be in a commercial venue, but for the commercial definition, it has to do with voluntary transfer of possession of an instrument, document, title, or chattel paper. Guess what was done? The birth clerk had mom sign as an informant, and there was a voluntary transfer of possession of something that was known as intangible, an intangible estate. It established the foundation of a legal representation of a private estate, and that is a commingling with the public. It ain't supposed to happen.
Keith,
Yep.
would it be safe to say, kind of in simpler terms, that all of the information that is within the record is source data, and that data is being exchanged for goods and services?
Yes, that's
under
what
15 USC 1667.5?
Yeah, that's the whole issue, is the data elements, and that's 19 CFR 149.3. If you are a buyer, seller, or ship to party, and it says in all three of them the exact same thing, that you can use a widely recognized, commercially identifiable number in lieu of a name and address, then why do you need a name and address? Why do you even need to sign documentation if you can give a number in lieu of the name and address? Can't you just sign that number? Remember, we've talked about just marking an X. you can sign just a number. As long as you know what that number means and how to direct them to use that number, you can sign just a number. It's all about the data elements you give them and what you understand about those data elements and how they're being used.
And mom donates the data, Keith, on the battlefield. Is that why it's a foundling hospital?
Well, it's a foundling hospital.
Well, the data is the source.
Because it's a right. It's a foundling hospital though because it's a military hospital, and military hospital is one that when the army is going across the land and they come across a part that's been shelled with artillery and stuff, and they find children and women. It's the spirit of war is that it's not against the women and children. So it doesn't matter if they're enemies or not. You're not supposed to take them prisoners of war. You're supposed to help them. And this is why it was so atrocious through Stalin's time and Hitler and stuff, because they didn't care about women and children on the field. They took them to concentration camps, did all those nasty experiments on them and stuff. So Foundling Hospital is based on the military aspect that originally war wasn't supposed to affect women and children. And yet here we have today, and it's always been, of course, through guerrilla warfare and tactics, that children were handed guns. But now we have women that are actually joining the military. It's sad.
Yes, it is.
To be a document of title, excuse me, let's finish reading it. And also any other document which in the regular course of business or financing, again, it's always in business or finance, it's always commercial, is treated as adequately evidencing that the person in possession of it is entitled to receive, hold, and dispose of that document and the goods it covers. To be a document of title, a document must purport to be issued by or addressed to a bailee. You see what that name is? That's the name of a bailee. I don't care who you are in life. When it comes to this commercial construct, that name is given for a purpose, and that is to be a bailee. It's known as a legal name for that purpose, to be able to be the bailee in presumptions of facts presented to the court. And as long as you don't know the true facts and how to separate them, you'll be the bailee. And they're going to treat you as the bailee 94 times if they want. And purport to cover goods in the bailee's possession, which are either identified or are fungible portions of an identified mass. See, when you buy that automobile at the car lot, that's considered a fleet vehicle. And if you don't do it right, it's still considered a fleet vehicle. That's why they split the title. Because it's a matter of employment. You can't use their property, their fleet vehicles, unless you're part of the corporate entity. Check this one out. Fault means default. Fault means default. Breach or wrongful act or omission. Good faith, except as otherwise provided in Article 5, means honesty in fact. and the observance of reasonable commercial standards of fair dealing. Notice they've got insolvency proceeding, insolvent, money. There's a definition of money that old boy was talking about. And it says a medium means a medium of exchange currently authorized or adopted by a domestic or foreign government. And as he said, it's all negotiable instruments. So money is a medium of exchange, the same thing as cash is a medium of exchange as negotiable instruments. They're pretty much the same thing. Party, as distinguished from third party, means a person that has engaged in a transaction or made an agreement subject to the Uniform Commercial Code. Oh, notice they don't have the term seller in there. They got buyer, but they don't have seller. And they've got purchaser, but they don't have seller. Purchaser means a person that takes by purchase. Purchase means taking by sale, lease, discount, negotiation, mortgage, pledge, lien, security interest, issue or reissue, gift, or any other voluntary transaction creating an interest in property. These are all voluntary actions. Okay? So if a mortgage is a voluntary action, can you rescind a voluntary action? If a lien is a lien, as is supposed to be imposed, how come it's in here with the class of voluntary actions? This is the one he was talking about yesterday. Writing includes printing, typing, or any other intentional reduction to tangible form. Written has a corresponding meaning. Unauthorized signature means a signature made without actual, implied, or apparent authority. The term includes a forgery. Interesting, huh, guys? What do you think about the definition so far? Pretty simple, aren't they?
To me, it seems self-explanatory.
Yeah. And
so, I mean, kind of what I'm, for the newcomers, you know, in all of this truth stuff and research, I try to simplify it for these guys. And I think at some point, isn't it, when we start writing things down, you just read something there a minute ago, written was what? Correspondence?
Written has a corresponding definition to writing.
So would that basically, in simple terms, in the beginning was word. So when we write something down, should that be the direction of the, or the directives of the data source that we're putting on that paper?
Well, yeah, that's the whole thing about correcting the record, is that when they do offer you those that documentation, it's a matter of being able to put the right data elements on there and give a qualified signature that's not a forgery or considered without authority. And that's you know, when it comes down to the plain writing, again, we are not corporate entities. So instead of filling out contracts, we're supposed to be giving letters of instruction, which should clarify the terms and conditions. Like when I get a rental agreement, I can't enter into it in a contract. But what I can do is use the contract form by adding my definitions to bring it into the trust form. So when I see a rental agreement that doesn't talk about equity, I have to put the terms in there that let them know that my companion and I are benefactors taking on no liabilities because the beneficiary is not required to do anything except the benefit. In accepting the benefit of a government instrumentality under general welfare, national and domestic tranquility, without arguing, I should be able to put the terms on there to clarify that. Everybody should.
Absolutely.
And they should be comprehensible by the people that are accepting them. They're not supposed to, like we mentioned, they are not supposed to be saying, well, you can't do that. The fuck I can't. I have unlimited powers of contract just like anybody else. I have the same plenary powers, having full power to make my own conscious thought and issue forth my manifestation of what I want. And it's not anything detriment to anybody else, so they really can't say anything about it.
True equity, obviously.
Yep. So the next one I want to look at comes from Investopedia. And this here, we're not going to read the whole thing, but we're going to give you a general idea here. Finance is a term for matters regarding the management, creation, and study of money and investments. Finance is a term for matters regarding the management, creation, and study of money and investments. Did you know that Vital Statistics Bureau or Vital Statistics record is created and regulated by the Department of Commerce? And it is a statistical study, and therefore it is a research program. And again, if they list you as a resident the day you're born and enter you into that statistical study, that research program through the Health and Human Services, which is a health and medical science research program, and under the Nuremberg trials, the first 10 points, the first point says the voluntary consent of the human subject is absolutely essential. So how do they get away with entering in a statistical research record on an infant that has no way of giving consent and then placate that they have to? There is no law that you even have to have a name. Show me the law. The only reason for that name is for its use and the compliance of the man who is so named. Why do you think Prince changed his name to a symbol? It involves the use of credit and debt, securities, and investment to finance current projects using future income flows. Again, it's a future debt and a future income flow. So what the fuck is happening right now? Because of this temporal aspect, finance is closely linked to the time value of money, interest rates, and other related topics. Before we go any further, you guys have any idea what time value of money is?
I would, well,
No.
The
And the decay
I
rate,
would
right?
say the intent of time you put in. Well, I don't know how to explain it.
You got a shot, John?
I was just thinking in physics, it could be like a decay rate. I don't know.
You're actually pretty close. So let's take a look. Oops. That is not what I was wanting. So let's go back. Time value of money. I hate the advertisements. What is the time value of money? The time value of money is the concept that a sum of money is worth more now than the same sum will be at a future date due to its earning potentials in the interim.
Wow.
Does that sound like a depreciation?
Yeah.
So what do they have to do to overcome the depreciation of their own money? They have to steal property from other people and call it assets to create credits that sit there hidden. Yes. If you guys understand banking, you wouldn't be operating with a bank with a savings account. The only thing you should probably have with a bank in relation to any kind of account like that is a checking account, because it's guaranteed outside of a trust. Outside of a trust, that is the only account I would possibly have at any kind of bank, is a checking account. And I wouldn't use it for any other purpose.
Non-U.S. person, no interest.
Yep. Absolutely. So let's take a look at the next one. And it's types of finance and financial services. Types of finance and financial services. So now we have different types of experiments. Finance is a broad term that describes activities associated with banking, leverage or debt, credit, capital markets, money, and investments. Essentially, finance represents money management and the process of acquiring needed funds. Now, wait a minute. You're going to acquire needed funds. This is the thing that bothers me about banking and people teaching their children about savings. Okay, if you're going to save money and it's going to depreciate, how much are you really going to have to save for that $60,000 car? If you're saving as a young child or a young man to buy a $60,000 car, it might take you a few years, right? So in the meantime, money that you're saving up is depreciating. So instead of having to save $60,000 for a car in 10 years, by the time that 10 years comes around, inflation is going to take place. That car is going to be $70,000. And instead of saving up $60,000, because money depreciates, you now have to save up $100,000. Why would you do things like that? That seems insane to me. That's why I've always been screaming, that ain't the way to do it. I know better. There's something wrong with that. Finance also encompasses the oversight, creation, and study of money, banking, credit, investments, assets, and liabilities that make up the financial systems. Again, you don't need that financial system yourself if you're a benefactor of that public trust. You don't need to use that public financial system. You can create your own financial system as it goes, where it's not using study of money and all that, but actually just learning how to trade like kind things or like valuable things. We've gotten away from that. Our urban farmers used to do that on a daily. Many of the basic concepts in finance originate from microeconomic and macroeconomic theories. You're all working on theory, folks. So again, show me the law. It says it's a theory. Even the law is a theory. One of the most fundamental theories is the time value of money, which states that $1 is worth more than $1 in the future. $1 today is worth more than $1 in the future. Are they trying to use this stuff to placate that depreciation factor? Because there are things that I know of in life that somebody gets as a young child, and it does nothing but appreciate more and more as time goes by. You get a gift from Grandpa, a handmade something. Say he made you a gun, a handmade gun by Grandpa. It has an intrinsic value worth so much more than any other financial system because it's a private thing and not a public financial institution. Just being public and having to take upon another definition is a delineation of true value, in my opinion, of course. So let's continue on with the next one. Again, these are things that you can look up on in your own research and in your own search engine and see what's going on. And I'm just going to touch on them. Financing, what it means and why it matters. Financing, providing or raising funds. Providing. Do you raise crops? Do you raise cattle? Do you suppose that is funding? Are they going to appreciate over time, whereas money depreciates? Why would you raise monetary funds when you can raise natural things that are fungible in a value system? What is financing? Financing is the process of providing funds for business activities. Now, why did shepherding and tending flocks become a business activity as that is defined? It was only when a financial system was developed and they bought and sold them for that funding in that financial system that there became a different evaluation. It's much easier to buy a certain amount of acreage and just let them roam freely and not tend to them and go north and south over many different parcels of land or across a great vast land. But now you're going to keep them confined in a small area and destroy the land because of your convenience and laziness of a financial system. It's like all the pig farms, turkey farms, chicken farms, all these big industrial farms. See, those animals are meant to travel. That's what tender really means, is when the hooves tender the earth and break up the hard compactness so that the seeds, when they fall, the wind blows and covers them with a little bit of dirt, and rain comes, and all of a sudden that seed germinates and a plant sprouts up. And the next time you go by that path, there's your apple tree. I think people have been seriously misled by this wealth system and the concept that it brings of materialistic goods that can only be had by things that have already depreciated, and then you think you're getting something of value. What do you guys think?
Well, I would agree. I mean, we've been indoctrinated with a lot of shit our whole lives. So, you know, it was intentional. It had to be. The system just didn't get to this point out of nowhere. It's been slowly implemented in the minds of the people, and unfortunately, those feelings and emotions and those alter egos take over in people, and this is where we've come to now. But I would encourage everybody moving forward that tries to move in life through equity and try to do the right things and to what is true and right, just careful to maintain those good works and realize that everything you put on that paper is source data, and they're going to source it whatever way they want to source it, and that source is not going to come back to you. It's going to go to them. And it's hard for them guys to get around you if you come with those very principles.
Right. And that's why I say it's important to start reading this stuff over. And Henry Guardo says money should be considered as anything that is negotiable. And that's absolutely right. Like I said earlier, if you can take a blank piece of paper and write those very same terms down that we were just talking about, as well as some others and stuff to make a buy or selling situation, that itself is money. A blank piece of paper is money in physical form. In the intangible form, this right here is money, guys. This is money in the intangible form. And then you can take a piece of paper and put the intangible stuff on that paper, and it becomes physical money. So let's look at the next one. This is coming from LII-WEX, definition of finance. And when we look at the LII-WEX definition of finance, look what they put. They put 1031 exchange, 341 meeting, AR, absolute bar rule, abuse, accelerated depreciation, acceleration clause, account debtor, and they just keep on going. And they've got all these financial terms, right? Well, when I pulled this up and I saw this one, I had to pull a couple things up. And along with it, I pulled up account and account debtor. These are the only ones we're going to go over, is the 1031 exchange, account, and account debtor. Because this is the one I'm talking about with the local hospital. 1031 exchange is something I've spoken on before. That is 26 U.S. Code 1031. That is the number of the code in reference to what they're talking about when they say a 1031 exchange. A 1031 exchange is an exchange of real property held for productive use or investment. Now, what do you think that statement of live birth is at the hospital? That's the one with the data elements that Brother Russ is talking about, that is going to be used according to their purposes for productive use or investment. Now it says, non-recognition of gain or loss from exchanges solely in kind. What's that? Is that a document? Is that a piece of paper? Solely in kind, in paper form. no gain or loss shall be recognized on the exchange of real property held for productive use in a trade or business, the performance of the functions of public office, or for investment if such real property exchanged solely for real property of like kind. No gain or loss shall be recognized on the exchange of real property held for productive use in a trade or business or for investment if such real property is exchanged solely for real property of like kind. Did that document get exchanged for real property of a different kind? And therefore insinuates, implies, presumes, assumes a investment or exchange for productive use for which there is a gain or loss recognized. Does credit have a gain or loss? Or is it just credit? Is it the spiritual credence that already exists? Exception for real property held for sale. This subsection shall not apply to any exchange of real property held primarily for sale. Again, this is one of those things. They might even ask you. I remember when I bought a car back when I was younger. They asked me while I was sitting there at the car lot if I intended to resell it when I was done. Why would a car lot wonder whether I was going to resell the car when I'm done using it? It just seemed like an odd question to me. The requirement that property be identified and that exchange be completed not more than 180 days after transfer of exchanged property. See, again, the requirement that something be identified is relative to the property, not yourself. You are not property, and they cannot identify you. They cannot identify yourself. Why do you think when you go into court, they ask for the name, and then when you stand up, they ask, is that you? Why do you think that is? You think they just know you? No, and they can't even admit that they know you because they only know the documentation.
Yeah, and Keith, the word jurisdiction means without determining.
You would have to show me that. Jurisdiction actually means juris, which means right, and diction, which means word. So it's just a matter of using the right words. Jurisdiction is actually a clarifying of what is deemed to be without determination. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'll have to find where I saw this, but a lot of times they bury the real definition at the bottom of a college dictionary. You know, the last one is the real one.
Yep. I've done my research, and that's one of the things I notice on online dictionary. You look up a word, and if you do it just the definition without the etymology, it'll come up with certain definitions, but then there's always a little bar at the bottom that says more definitions. And then you open that more definitions and it gives you more, of course, obviously. And it always just keeps the definitions start at the top and they just keep getting better and better as you read towards the bottom. Says, for purpose of this subsection, any property, now they're going to put in there the taxpayer. Remember that exchange, trade or business, the performance of the functions of public office, as that term is defined in 26 UCC 7701. number 25, I think, 25 or 26. Trade or business means the performance of the functions of public office. So the performance of the functions of public office has to do with property that is taxable. Any property received by the taxpayer shall be treated as property which is not like kind. Any property received by the taxpayer. So if you give them an ID, guess what? You just showed them that you're operating as taxpayer, and any property received is that of a taxpayer, and it shall not be treated as property which is not like kind, if such property is not identified as property to be received in exchange on or before the day, which is 45 days after the date on which the taxpayer transfers the property relinquished in the exchange. 180 days and 45 days. 45 days after the taxpayer transfers the property relinquished in the exchange, or such property received after the earlier of the day, which is 180 days after the date on which the taxpayer transfers property relinquished in the exchange, or the due date determined with regard to extension for the transfer's return of the tax imposed. The transfer's return of the tax imposed. Did you fill out a tax return? Did you get a return on your taxes that you already paid? Don't you get it? If they're saying the transfer's return of the tax, then the damn tax was already paid. So the due date for the transfer's return of the tax. The due date is the return of the tax imposed. You already paid it. That's what the finance charge is. The finance charge, in case you guys didn't know it, and I'll find the definition in the federal code. In the federal code, finance charge means the sum total of all charges. So if you go to a car lot and they have a $100 finance charge, you can do that $100 finance charge, and that's to finance the credit transaction. You have to know these terms so you can put it in there. And even that finance charge can be done through the credit or through the Treasury as a credit. Anything used to obtain money, property, labor, or services on credit. Very simple wording. Now, the rest of this I'm not going to read except for this very last one. You guys can read that. It's 26 U.S. Code 1031. But we're going to go down here to H because it's relative to the like kind. Special rules for foreign real property. Real property located in the United States and real property located outside the United States are not property of like kind. So when you were born in the hospital and that documentation was created outside of the United States, and you were not born in the United States, but yet that's what the record reflects. Who is wrong, you or the record? If I was born in Dubuque, Iowa, or at Dubuque, Iowa, and the record says I was born in the United States, who is accurate? Who is correct?
That would be you.
Absolutely.
You could be possibly be born in D.C. anyway.
You could be.
Well,
that still wouldn't be a birth registration.
Right.
They would have to get a birth registration. There is no birth registration in the United States, and Washington D.C. is not a statehood. Therefore, they don't have an enumeration at birth either. They don't have a birth certificate either. You understand that? That's foreign
Yep.
territory.
Yep.
That's domestic territory, or domestic grounds, domestic land being rented by a foreign entity. That's it. So people that are born in Washington D.C., I'd love to see that record. I'd love to see how that grammar writes. So let's look at the next one. As it talks about that 1031 exchange, also called a tax deferred exchange. You get to defer the taxes. Isn't that just like deferring the debt? Refers to the ability of investors and organizations to replace one investment for a similar one instead of keeping the proceeds. So, you go to the bank. You fill out that promissory note. And instead of the bank keeping the proceeds, they can sell it. They can swap it. They can exchange it for a different investment that they know is valid and good, as opposed to your bullshit promissory note, which they know is bullshit. Because if you knew what it was and how to operate it, you'd have never given them a promissory note. You'd have financed the credit. For certain transactions, the exchange allows the investor or organization to defer capital gain taxes until the new investment is actually sold for the proceeds. So now they swap that promissory note for an installment plan, and at closing, you sign the installment plan instead of getting your promissory note back. Okay? That's the exchange. Now they can actually sell the new investment for its proceeds. The initial property typically is sold for money, but this money must be used quickly to acquire new replacement investments. The initial property is typically sold for money, but it must be used. This money must be used quickly to acquire new replacement investment. It's a shell game right under your eyes, folks. These referred exchanges are called 1031 exchanges, which are governed by Section 1031 of the Federal Tax Code. Section 1031 requires a new investment to be selected within 45 days and completed within 135 days after identification. That makes your total of 180 days. The new property must cost the same amount or more than the original property. So the initial investment has now depreciated because it's at a future time, 45 days later.
You know you're not sharing screen.
I don't know why not. Because
There
I
you
suck
go.
at this. Because I suck at this.
Hey, it only gets better, right?
I hope.
Absolutely.
The new property must cost the same amount or more than the original property. And they can acquire multiple similar investments to fulfill this requirement. The basis for the original investment will be altered to reflect the changes from the exchange of property so that the final capital gains taxes will accurately reflect what gain or loss the investor incurred. So if you're the one investing, who's incurring the losses. And if you're investing and thinking you're going to make the profit, but you're the one incurring the losses, you see how the system's working? Let me read that again. The basis for the original investment will be altered. Are they supposed to alter things? No. To reflect the changes from the exchange of property so that the final capital gains taxes will accurately reflect what gain or loss the investor occurred. Now remember, the taxes are a percentage of some value. And if you're paying taxes on a loss, they're just giving the value of the tax percentage on the loss. You still pay in taxes because they're still doing a job that you employ them to as a third party. That's what the taxes are for, is to pay them for doing these services. And again, if you don't understand what banking is, I don't recommend that you bank with these people. If you don't understand what contracting is, I don't recommend that you keep contracting. I suggest you unlearn what you've learned and relearn concise English, English composition, the King James Version of the Bible, and get yourself a dictionary and thesauruses. The next one, account. An account within the context of secured transactions is defined under Article 9 of the Uniform Commercial Code as a right to payment of a monetary obligation. That is the account. Is a right to payment of a monetary obligation. So if you got a bank account, do you have the right to payment of a monetary obligation? And if so, if you have the right to payment of a monetary obligation, where is that obligation? And why is it that you've got a bank account to qualify that? And if that's the case, that's a contract setup. Doesn't the other party have a right of payment of a monetary obligation? And isn't that saying that you have and hold a monetary obligation yourself? Why are you holding obligations if you're the benefactor? Benefactor is not obligated to do a goddamn thing. Learn the law, folks. Not included letters of credit, commercial tort claims, deposit accounts. You see why? You keep opening those damn deposit accounts. That's not a right of payment of a monetary obligation. Investment property, that rental property you bought to invest in, that's not covered here. Chattel paper, not covered. Got to be a contract. Or rights to payment for money or funds that have been advanced. Advanced. Federal Reserve notes are for advances from Federal Reserve institution to another Federal Reserve institution by transfer agents. Federal Reserve notes are promissory notes. That's what they advance to and from each other, promissory notes. The next one, the account debtor, is someone who owes an obligation by virtue of an account, chattel paper, and general intangibles. Does that sound like them data elements, Russ?
Absolutely.
So why would you owe an obligation on the data elements, Russ?
Why would you? I wouldn't.
You would if it weren't true. You would if you go around claiming that you're a resident and you're not a resident.
Correct. Correct. You're lying.
Exactly.
It's impossible.
Exactly.
And that's why the benefactor shouldn't have to worry about anything. As long as you're careful to maintain good works, you should enjoy the creation. And what it's brought forth.
Yep. And it's an account
Period. The end.
debtor. An account debtor is someone who owes an obligation by virtue of the account, chattel paper, or general intangible. Your thoughts alone, where you go around believing that you're a United States citizen when it's impossible, that you're a resident when it's never been deemed necessary. These are the things that you're obligated for. So again, I urge you to unlearn what you've learned, relearn concise English, and start all over again. I urge you deeply, you're doing it wrong. And I'm not telling you because I think you're doing it wrong. I'm telling you because I know I was doing it wrong. I was the bitch ass slave. I was the fucking fool. I was the one with the ID saying I'm a resident. I'm a United States citizen. I've done it too. It's time to put it down. The next one. Finally, we get to the post office. The postal one. And it says here, and I'm not going to, this is a long thing, and we're going to go over some things here, but we're going to stop right about here, I think it is. Right here. We're going to stop right here. I'm just going to read this first part. It says postal money orders, $1,000 maximum. Effective June 30th, 2002, the maximum value for money orders will increase from $700 to $1,000. So back in 2002, they used to issue money orders that were 0 to 350 or something like that, or up to $700. Today, they have a money order that you can put a $1.10 on and get up to $500. The other one is $1.50 for up to $1,000, and it's all on one form. Forms PS Form 6387, and I'll show you that here in a minute. But it says the maximum value statement is printed on the back of the money order as a security measure. Now, this is relative to the time I got a postal money order through the mail for somebody that sent me a donation. It was $100. On the back, it says full value $1,000. I can't remember the exact words, but on the back of it, it said it had a redeemable value of $1,000. And when I took it up to the local store here to cash that check, and they had a postal scale there, along with a little postal outlet, and refused to cash that money order, I let them know what would happen if I had to call the Northern District gal up in, I think it's Illinois, or over in Illinois, for the postal system and those money orders. Because on the back of it, it says I can get $1,000 out of it. I just want to cash it for its $100 face value on the face of the instrument, not on the underlying backside, having to go through a private process to get that full $1,000. I just want the $100 that was sent to me. All you need to do is cash it. Well, he said they don't cash paychecks or checks. And I had to explain to him that it's not a check, it's a money order, and that Department of Agriculture and Land Stewardship certificate on the wall there is what securitizes that transaction. And that he's supposed to cash that because it's a postal service operation, and that's what that scale is for conversion of monies. Well, he didn't want to do it at first, but once he called that gal in Illinois and spoke to her, he cashed it. That's the law. If you're running a postal substation and somebody walks in with a postal money order and you deny it, that's dishonor. They tendered an instrument and you refused it. That's automatic discharge. I shouldn't have had to even said anything. I could have just sent it back to the post office or went through the post office and demanded the $1,000 because when I presented to him, he dishonored it. The maximum value stated is printed on the back of the money order as a security measure. It is a security instrument. It is securitized by the one who holds the very obligation, the Postal Service. They're the ones that hold the real estate investment trust. You must deplete the current stock of $700 maximum value money orders prior to using the 1,000 maximum value money orders. I'm pretty sure they're all used up. So let's go down here, and you'll see it says before it was a $1.25 fee and a 90-cent fee. Today it's a $1.10 fee and a $1.50 fee. Distribution of Paymaster 1,000 maximum value money orders. So who's the Paymaster? Who's supposed to pay? If they're the Paymaster, and remember, a Paymaster is the man in charge of paying who? The troops. It is a military operation. Again, $1,000 maximum value money orders, manual non-POS money orders to some stamp distribution offices started in April. Distribution of POS 1,000 maximum value money orders will begin in June. International money orders with the 1,000 maximum value are forthcoming. Issuing offices must not use the 1,000 maximum value money order until June 30th, 2002. Since contract postal units are not authorized to issue no-fee money orders, the host post office or contracting officer representative must assist the CPU with conversion to the new 1,000 maximum value money order. Who is the contract postal unit? Since contract postal units, are you a United States citizen? Is that a united citizen? Like I said, you're a contract postal unit. You're considered to be a contract officer, posting everything in any unit amount that they request, require, imply, presume, assume. It says we are revising PS Form 6387, Rural Money Order Transaction Application, to reflect the new money order fee and new maximum value. The 90 cent and $1.25 is for the old ones. It is now $1.10 and $1.50, and it works for up to $500 for the $1.10, up to $1,000 for the $1.50. And I'll show you that. It says Paymaster reconfiguration for postal money order increase, and it just talks about their little machine that they use for it. But down here it says international reply coupons. What's that? Recoupment. See, this is the level for recoupment. Recoupment. Effective May 30th, 2002, International Mail Manual 372.3.B. This is not the domestic mail manual, but the international mail manual is revised to state that international reply coupons purchased in foreign countries are exchangeable at U.S. post offices toward the purchase of postage stamps and embossed stamp envelopes, including aerograms, postage meter stamps, and postage validation in printer labels will no longer be exchanged for foreign issued IRCs. We will incorporate this revision into the printed version of IMM issue 27 and into the online IMM available via Postal Explorer at and there you go, there's that link. So you can look them up online via Postal Explorer, electronic for them. Now it says International Mail Manual, 3 services, 3 special services. Remember what I said about special? That's private. Anytime you see special, go ahead and replace it with private. See what it says. It says 3 private services. 370 is supplemental services, something additional above and beyond the domestic mail manual. It's supplemental and it's private. International reply coupons. So again, you have the availability of having an international reply coupon because again, you are foreign. That state is foreign, and therefore it is an international communication. Understand this stuff. Now here's the form, PS Form 6387. And this is what I'm working on. This is the claim I'm putting forth on this postal service. Because as you see, it says rural money order transaction application. What's it say above that? It says United States Postal Service, and then it's got a registered trademark, a registered mark, telling us that they are the registered agent. And then it says customer. Does it come to an expenses to the customer, or is freedom of transit guaranteed throughout the entire territory of the Union, as it said in the postal protocols? Okay, complete this part only. In other words, just this side. We're not going to complete this stuff over here. This is for the issuing office and the carrier. Okay, so this over here, it says check if you want the post office, and look at that, it's got a trademark. So the trademark holder is the authority of the United States Postal Service, the registered agents that work within the post office. And notice it's not the United States Post Office, it's the post office. Okay, post office is the Global Postal Trust Services at the international level. If it was the post office of the United States, it would say United States Post Office. And it says, check here if you want the post office to mail the money order. If so, complete pay to and from sections and give your carrier a stamped, addressed envelope. It doesn't say anything about sealing it and putting a stamp on it. Okay? It just says, give your carrier a stamped, addressed envelope. That stamp is not qualified. You can put a prepaid postage indicia on it as stamp in stamp form. And otherwise, the carrier will deliver the money order for you. Remember what deliver means? Voluntary transfer of possession. If you want to transfer it yourself, that's what you're doing. You're handing it to the post office, the postal carrier. That itself is delivery. It's a voluntary transfer of possession. So when the postal carrier turns around and gives another voluntary transfer of possession, it's still another delivery. It's just being delivered along the way. The point here is to stop the delivery. It's got to stop at a certain point so that the issue can be resolved as a credit. Okay? Otherwise, yeah.
Are you familiar with a DA Form 68 or 1687?
No.
delegations of authority, unit information, authorizing officer, authorized individual, type of supplies and services, effective date. It's from the Army, I guess, I believe.
Yeah, it's something else. I might look into it some other time, but just about done here, folks. This is all we got left to go over is this money order. And as it says, maximum amount per money order, $1,000. So here you have a domestic money order that you can make out yourself from 0.01 to $500 for $1.10. That's what it's saying. Okay? For $1.10. And notice it's a T ledger. This is a T ledger. Okay? There's a split right down the middle here. This is one side. This is the other side. Notice it says fee. The fee. The cost is $1.10 that was incurred. That's the tax. You're paying a tax. You're paying a levy. They levied a $1.10 charge on this side for a fee of 0.01 to $500. I want to ask you, think. Now this might take some mathematical logic here, folks, but think. Why would they charge you $1.10, and why would you pay $1.10 for a money order for $1.10? See, what they're trying to say is that along with them giving $500 in the money order, that you're supposed to give them $500 and the $1.10. That is not the way this instrument reads. It reads the other way. It reads for 0.01 to $500 domestic money order, you may pay $1.10. Just tell us how much that money order is for. Domestic money order 500.01 to 1,000 is $1.50. Now it says pay carrier total amount of money order and fee. Is this not something used to obtain money, property, labor, or services? Am I not using money already with the device as an equal exchange? They offered this document, a form, which is known as money. It is a monetary instrument. So they offered me money in this form. Unlike this form of money, I gave them another form of money in an equal exchange to extend the credit. The name says pay to. Extreme Video. Mailing address. From Joyce Schmidt. Mailing address. Da-da-da-da. So up here, it's got a place I can put that nice 1.5 inch by 4 inch stamp. And down here, I can qualify it myself if I want with a signature. But again, if I'm giving a number in lieu of a name and address, from, see this from, instead of giving a name and address, can't I use a number in lieu of that name and address? You guys see where I'm going on that?
Yes, I do.
If the data elements are the thing being exchanged, and you give a number, a widely recognized commercially identifiable number in lieu of the name and address on one of their own forms, then they should be able to comprehend what's going on, and they don't. and that's pretty plain English, pretty concise plain English. And they say, "Oh, no, that's not the way it works. You got to give us $500." I don't know where they get that. I really don't, because I don't see why other people would, and it's just the indoctrination. I don't know why other people would not slow down and take the time to read that. That's this for this. That's a T ledger. They're supposed to equal out. So for $1.10 in real money, I can issue $458 in credit. I'm using that instrument along with equal consideration to obtain money, property, labor, or services on credit with the very entity that's supposed to be equally considered in credit form. They're the ones with the real estate investment trust. I'm the one that has the right to possess the land. Other than that, there's not supposed to be any taxes. So I hope you guys understood what we went over today as far as finance. Everything comes from source, like Russ was pointing out. You are the source. The merits of your actions are the spiritual credit. Your actions should be meritorious and not idiotic, indoctrinated, and allowing people to just keep doing the same dumb thing over and over again when that's the problem. Again, I urge you guys to understand that you've been indoctrinated. Again, it's not me saying it. I admit myself, I was indoctrinated. I was the fucking fool. I was the bitch-ass slave. It's time to wake up. You're full-grown boys and girls, and it is easy to read. Get over the laziness. Get over the comfort. Start doing this stuff, because otherwise you're going to hand over things to your inheritance thinking that it's going to go to your next generation, and it's not. So with that, I am done. You got anything to say on the way out, Russ?
Well, as far as that DA form that I was talking about, that 1687, it's a signature card. And it says the DA form 1687, also known as the Notice of Delegation of Authority, receipt for supplies, serves as written record of authorization granted to individuals to receive property, supplies, or services on behalf of military unit or organization. Well, that master commissioner is a receiver. So also under that SS-16 as well, but it goes on to say delegated authority. The form designates individuals who are authorized to receive supplies or services on behalf of a particular unit, organization. This delegation of authority ensures accountability and control over the distribution of resources. Unit information. The DA Form 1687 includes details about the unit or organization, such as the unit's name, address, and UIC code, which is Unit Identification Code.
Yeah.
Authorization officer goes on to talk about authorized individuals, types of supplies and services. So
do you feel like a unit now?
Absolutely, but I think that's another piece. I think that's another piece of the puzzle. In regards to these master commissioners under this SS-16, which controls the court circuit. Well, now it would seem that their delegations of authority, that they would have to have this DA 1687 signature card, they call it, of delegations of authority to receive funding.
And Goldsmith, yes, I am familiar with tax per Q. We spoke on that last night. You can use tax per Q. You can use Her Majesty's Royal Mail, all kinds of things. There's several ways of doing that. And then as far as Just Gadget, have it. I've used those forms in the military. It is only for the military. Did you know that the post offices are known as Inland Marine installations, it is military. The post offices are military. They're the ones, think about it, they're the ones with the exclusive federal jurisdiction. What do you think the postal roads are for? These postal roads that we have nowadays are designed after World War II, the Autobahn from Germany. They're specifically designed to carry heavy artillery. Specifically, they are postal roads known as military routes, so that the army and its military enforcements can travel across the country quickly, easily, and without tearing up the roads. Anything else there, Russ?
No, I'm good. I'm glad you're out here early.
Well, I'm going to be back at 6 o'clock doing some more stuff on the, like I said yesterday, I wanted to do a review on a selective service video I did. It's about 36 minutes long, but I wanted to review it. And when I got started last night, somebody brought up that Brandon Williams and James Lovett were on, so we did a review of that instead.
Yeah.
But tonight,
for a little bit.
Yep. Tonight I will do the selective service thing to help you guys understand what selective service is, and it is not required, it's not mandatory. Ain't no way in hell it can be mandatory. God says to owe no man anything but to love one another. And to go to war means that you obviously think they owe you so much of a debt that you're willing to kill them. I find that kind of facetious. So anyway, anything else, Russ? If not, we're out.
No, I'm good. I appreciate it. Much love.
Always appreciate you too, brother. In the meantime, guys, remember hit the like, share, and subscribe button. There's a PayPal link down in the details section for anybody that wants to share some love. And remember, I love you, but I don't give a rat's ass whether you love me back. That's to say, I don't care if you hate me. So may God bless you and have a good night.